Hey, my name is Terry, and I'm 31 years old. I'm currently the director of a company that manufactures equestrian gears and accessories such as saddles, tacks, and more. We also run a horse riding training program that has trained over 250 equestrians. I joined the company 3 years ago when it was just a horse riding gear shop in the countryside. The road has been bumpy, but now the business is doing pretty good. Our profits from the operations and the horse riding training programs have increased significantly over the years. We started selling products through a website and other e-commerce platforms, and now we have our stores across the country. But life wasn't always hunky-dory. Before I joined this company, I used to work at a manufacturing center. It was a pretty hectic job. I used to work 8 hours a day, and to make things worse, my boss, Joe, was not exactly the kind of person you would want to work with. He used to bully me for being from the countryside. I spent all my childhood and even my teenage years in the countryside, and I'm quite proud of it. But he had a different opinion. My egotistical boss consistently made jokes about my countryside origins. I worked in that manufacturing center for more than a year, and he made fun of me and bullied me every single day. But the worst was when he ridiculed me in front of everyone. All the employees were having lunch together as it was the 3rd anniversary of the manufacturing center's opening. All of a sudden, Joe gets up and calls me. I went to him and stood next to him. He called for everyone's attention. "Hey, everybody, listen, everyone. Can I have your attention for a minute? We have with us the sheriff of our town, Terry." "What are you doing, Joe?" "Just play along, will you? So, our sheriff here has worked very hard for over a year now. Tell us how working here in a big manufacturing center is different from working in a ranch." "Joe, what are you doing?" "Oh, don't be shy, cowboy. Tell us. I am sure you have a lot to say." "Joe, I never worked on a ranch. My family didn't own a ranch." "Too bad. I thought everyone in the countryside had their own ranch." "They don't." "What did you do then?" "We did the same things we do here. I went to school. My father was a mechanic and owned a garage, and my mother used to work as a tour guide sometimes. She was well aware of the town's history, and travel companies used to hire her sometimes to be the tour guide." "How disappointing. You're no fun." "It was quite fun, actually. We had a lake near our town. We used to go there, swim, and chill. And since it was a small town, everyone knew everyone. It was like one big family." "I'm pretty sure that's true, considering there are not a lot of jobs available and people have a lot of time on their hands." "That's not..." "Alright, Terry. Why don't you sing us a country song? You should have brought your banjo with you." "I can't sing." "Well, we all know that. We've heard country songs, haven't we? Ha! None of you can actually sing."
"Joe, what are you trying to..."
"I called you so you could make this party more fun. You were disappointing as always. Anyway, welcome to the modern world. I hope you get a lot from all of us. Give it up for Terry, everyone." I swear, he used to get on my nerves every time he made fun of me. But I couldn't do anything back then. He was my boss, and he really enjoyed bullying me. I took all of it without a word, telling myself it was part of the job. It had been more than a year now since this was going on. The bullying remained constant, and to top it off, my marriage was going downhill. It was not working out. There were a lot of differences. We were having constant fights, and eventually, we decided to call it quits. We divorced without any complications. We both knew we couldn't stay together any longer, so we separated. The decision was mutual. It took around 4 months to finalize the divorce, but little did I know, my ex-wife had another trick up her sleeve to ridicule me. She emailed Joe telling him about the divorce and how bad of a husband I was. Joe, being Joe, called everyone and read the email to everyone. "Hey, listen up, everyone. I have news for you. Hey, Terry, come here and stand next to me. I need you for this one." "What's the matter, Joe? Is everything okay?" "All right, everybody, listen. So I just got an email from Terry's wife. My bad. Terry's ex-wife telling me about how wonderful of a husband Terry was." "Hey, Joe, what are you doing?" "Oh, come on, Terry. It's all done now. You're divorced. Try to have fun. I promise you'll laugh after hearing this email. Please, Joe, whatever is written on that email, don't read it out loud. It's between me and her. It's personal. Well, not anymore. She sent me this email. Joe, please, I beg you. All right, listen up. Here's what she has to say. Hey, Joe. I hope you're doing well. I just wanted to let you know that Terry and I are no longer together. We've called off our marriage. If you could, please tell all the guys to tell their wives to not ask me anything about it. I am friends with some of them, and they're constantly asking me about my marriage and Terry. Terry is no longer my problem. He was never a good husband, and I've decided to take a stand for myself. I'm better off without him. He is broke. He has been a liability, right from the start of our marriage. My father was against it, but still, I married him. Now I realize that I never should have. I don't know what was going on in my head when I decided to marry him. I am also sending you the divorce papers so you know it's not a joke or a prank. And please remove my name from his emergency contact. We are no longer together. He's your problem now. Have a great day. Why are you doing this? Hey, don't be so uptight. Look at everyone. They're all laughing. You just made their day. Try to have a little fun. This isn't right. It was personal, and now you've let everybody in on it. Well, your wife. Oh, I'm sorry. Your ex-wife should have thought of this before sending me an email. You don't know the truth. Whatever she said is not entirely true. It's just how she feels, and there's always two sides to a story. Hey, do you know what your mistake was? Marrying her. She is a city girl and you are from the countryside. Why did you even think you guys would be a good match? She would have never wanted to live the way you live. No city girl would ever want a backyard loser like you. You shouldn't have married her in the first place. I mean, just look at yourself. How did you even think that a woman like her would stay happy after being married to you? That's enough, Joe. Or what? You're going to hit me with your whip? Give me a break. Everybody, go back to work. And you, don't you ever dare talk to me like that. I'm not one of your ranch fellows. I am your boss. Now get out of my face and go back to work. I went back to my work without a single word. As I was walking back to my station, I could see everybody laughing at me. After everything that had just happened, and seeing everybody laughing at me, made me angry. I wasn't even sad at this point. I was just bursting out with anger. I was angry at Joe for doing what he did. And I was angry at my ex-wife for sending that email. I was so angry my hands started to shiver and I couldn't do anything. That was the moment I decided that it was enough. It was time that I confronted Joe for all the bullying. I packed up my stuff and barged into Joe's cabin. Listen, I quit. What? I quit. I don't want to work for someone like you. You've done nothing but bully me ever since I came here. Is that a threat or what? Are you serious? Are you quitting? It's not a threat. I quit. I don't want to work here anymore. Who do you think you are? This is not the countryside and you are not the sheriff of this place. You better watch that tone of yours. All I've ever done is to be honest with my work. I've never created any problem for you ever. I do my work sincerely and go home. And yet, ever since I joined, you do nothing but bully me. And what are you going to do about it, cowboy? Do you think I care if you stay or leave? If you want to leave, just leave. I was, anyway, planning to fire you soon. You're just making my work easy. You're a horrible person. Are you done? Are you going to leave, or should I call a couple of guys to drag you out of here? Get out of here and go back to your ranch. This is not a place for someone like you. Go back and milk some cows or something. Karma will catch up to you someday, Joe. And I hope it does, because you are miserable. That's enough. Get out of here and never come back again. I'll make sure no other manufacturing firm employs you ever. Go back to your town and never come back here. I packed up all my stuff and left the job. Even though I quit my job, I was still very angry and wanted to punch Joe in the face. I came back home, changed, and went to the bar. I ordered a couple of drinks and started to wonder if I made a mistake. I didn't have a job anymore. I didn't have any plans. I didn't know what I would do next. I was stranded. I finished my drinks and took a cab home. I came home, took a hot shower, ate, and slept. The next morning I woke up and it hit me hard. I didn't have a job anymore. All I could think of was, how am I going to survive? How am I going to buy groceries or pay the rent? All of these thoughts were eating me up from the inside. I checked the newspaper and the internet for a job and saw a few vacancies. I applied for the jobs online and waited. It had been a month since I quit the job and I was still jobless. I applied at so many places, but nothing. Most of them didn't respond, and the others called me for an interview but never hired me. I was starting to wonder if Joe was the reason behind it. The interviews that I was in went pretty well, but I never got hired. Maybe it was Joe who told everyone in the city not to hire me. I was desperate now. I even thought of going back to Joe and asking him for his forgiveness and telling him to hire me back, but my pride never allowed me to do it. I went to a bar that evening and ordered some drinks. I saw one of my high school friends, Jesse, there. He seemed very different from what he used to be. He saw me and instantly recognized me. He came up to me and hugged me. We ordered some more drinks and were catching up on each other's lives. He told me how he was running his own apparel brand now, which mostly sold pieces of denim. His business was doing pretty good. He had a lot of customers in the city, and he had to come here to meet some of his business partners. He asked me what I was doing, and I told him everything about how I lost my job and how I've been searching for a new job since last month. And then, out of nowhere, he gave me an idea that made my ears perk up. Why don't you just go back home and try something there? What would I do there? There's a lot you could do there. Do you remember Billy? Billy? Who? The old guy who used to make saddles? Yeah. What about him? He has made quite a business for himself there. He has the town's biggest shop for horse gear and accessories, and he makes it all on his ranch. Wow, didn't know that guy had it in him. Oh, he does. He's looking to expand his business to the city, and there is a lot of potential here. People love horse riding. How can I help him? You've worked in manufacturing, right? You know how things work, how the shipments are made, and how they're delivered, how the logistics work, and how the batches are made. Yeah, I do. That's all he needs. He's having trouble understanding how the business works in the city. Maybe you can go help him. I don't know, I've never been on his good side. When I was a kid, I used to always bother him with my little mischiefs. That's old news now. I'm pretty sure he'd be more than happy to partner up with you. And he's old. He doesn't understand how the internet works. You could build a website for him to sell his stuff. I'll help you with all that. Well, that sounds good. But why don't you do it for him? You could make a lot of profit. I have a lot on my plate right now. I still have to expand my apparel business. I don't think I'm ready to enter a new line of business. All right, fair enough. Do you want me to talk to him about this for you? I'm sure he'd be happy to meet you. Yes, please. As soon as I said this, he made a call to Billy, and Billy was actually delighted to hear this. His business was stuck, but now he had a little hope of expanding his business to the city. We finished our drinks and Jesse gave me Billy's phone number. I was supposed to meet with him the next day at Billy's ranch. The next morning I got up early, had a shower, had breakfast, and went back home to the countryside. I met Billy and we discussed business. I made a go-to market business plan for him and decided to start off the business by selling products online. I took 10 SKUs of each of his products back to the city and kept them in my place. Jesse helped me build the website to sell them, but the website was hardly getting any visitors, so we decided to list the products on other e-commerce websites, and that was it. We made our first sale on the first day. I was delighted. It was working. In less than a month, most of the products were sold. I went back home and told Billy about it. He was thrilled to hear this. He got so happy that he started jumping like a kid. I guess he knew it was finally happening for him. This time I took more of his products back to my place in the city. It started selling faster. We even saved some of the revenue to hire a digital marketing team to work on the website, put up online ads, and work on our e-commerce product listings, and it paid off. The goods were selling quicker than ever. We rented extra space to store our products, and soon it all blew up. We had customers coming to our website, and we were saving massive sales from e-commerce platforms. And the online ads that we put up were working like a charm. The conversion rate was only 0.1%, but that was enough. For every 1,000 views on our ads, one customer ended up buying our product. And our ads were viewed by thousands of people every day. After about 8 months, we were able to launch our first physical store in the city. We also expanded our merchandise. We had gears, accessories, tax, equestrian attire, and everything. The business was doing good. We opened more stores, and eventually, we had to open our first manufacturing center on the outskirts of the city. The demand was higher than ever, and Billy alone could not produce this many products. It was finally happening. I used to spend most of my time in our manufacturing center and the stores. One day I was at one of our stores and I saw a beautiful lady walking in. She had no idea about horse riding but was very keen to learn it. Her name was Alice. I told her everything about it, about the gears, pieces of equipment, and the tires. We were also planning to launch our equestrian training program. She was actually the first one to enroll in it. Since Alice was the first one, I used to personally drive her to the place where we taught horse riding. We used to visit it twice every week. We enjoyed each other's company and soon started seeing each other. She was fascinated by horses, and I was the one who introduced her to the world of horse riding. She was always fascinated by life in the countryside, and she used to ask me more and more about it. The more I told her, the more she was getting hooked. And eventually, we started dating and fell in love. We dated for 4 months and then it happened, something I'll never forget. She took me to her home one day, and I was shocked to see who her father was. It was Joe. Joe was equally shocked to see me. She told me about her father, but what were the odds of her father being the same Joe that was my ex-boss? Turns out it was a small world indeed. It had been 2 years since I quit, and there I was standing right in front of him. The moment Joe saw me, he burst out in anger like a volcano. "Dad, meet my boyfriend." "Boyfriend? What are you doing here?" "Hey, Joe. Good to see you again." "What's the matter with you, Dad?" "Who called him here?" "Calm down, Dad. This is my boyfriend, Terry." "Boyfriend? Are you kidding me?" "What is wrong with you, Dad? Why are you acting so weird?" "Get him out of here and stop seeing him right away. You'll never meet him ever again." "Calm down, Joe. You don't need to get so angry." "Dad, what's happening? Do you guys know each other?" "Yeah, we go way back. He is truly a nightmare." "What? What's happening?" "You get out of here." "All right, Joe, I'll leave. Don't forget to take your medicine. Your heart would not be able to handle all of this." And I left. As I was leaving, Alice came running back to my car and asked me what had just happened. I told her that Joe was my ex-boss, the one I had told her about. She already knew that my ex-boss used to bully me for being from the countryside. What she didn't know was that her father was that same ex-boss. She got really angry. She told me she would call me later and went back inside her house. I went home. The next morning, Alice came to my house and told me how sorry she was for whatever her father had done to me. She also said that she told Joe about my business, and apparently, Joe's bosses were planning to crack a deal with my company to get into a manufacturing contract. I was shocked to hear that. The company that I used to work for is now trying to make a deal with my new company. Look at how the tables have turned. She told me how sorry her father was for not treating me right, but I know Joe. He was just using his daughter to make sure our history didn't affect the deal in any way. I told her that all was forgiven, and I was ready to meet Joe's bosses to get into a contract. She was happy. She hugged me and went back home. After a week, I had a meeting with Joe's bosses. I took Billy with me, and Joe came with his bosses. We all sat together in a restaurant to talk business, but I was in no mood to forgive Joe. I told his bosses everything that Joe had done to me. Joe's face went pale. He tried to defuse the situation, but I was too adamant to make Joe pay for whatever he did. I even told his bosses that I would be willing to crack a massive deal with them if they fired Joe from their company. Joe looked at me with rage, and I gave a sly smile back to him. Me and Billy got up and left the restaurant. After a week or so, one of Joe's bosses called me and told me that they had fired Joe for what he had done to me, and they assured me that they would look after these things so nobody else would ever have to go through it. I was so happy to hear that, but I told them to hire Joe again. They were confused. I told them that it was to test to see if their company was ready to do the right thing. In a business, ethics matter. I told them to rehire Joe. They agreed and we made a deal. The only reason I told them to hire Joe again was because of Alice. I love Alice, and I didn't want to do anything to upset her. Lord knows I enjoy the visit to Joe's manufacturing center now. It just feels great. Now I visit the place I used to work in as a client to check up on the manufacturing of products. Everyone who laughed at me is now working for me, and Joe treats me with the utmost respect. I often call Joe a cowboy now, just to tease him, to show him that he is now working for a countryside man. Me and Alice are soon going to marry each other, and Joe would have to walk his daughter down the aisle and look up to the man he ridiculed. I am not marrying Alice to get revenge on Joe. I'm not that petty. I love Alice. The way she stood up to her father for bullying me really won my heart. But I must admit, watching the man who bullied you look up to you is quite delightful. I even got a call from my ex-wife once she got to know about my business. She told me how sorry she was and wanted to come back. I instead invited her to my wedding, and she was pissed off. She screamed at me on the phone and I cut the call. It was so satisfying. It has been 3 years since I left that nightmare of a job, and it has been the best decision I've ever made. I sometimes wonder what I would have been doing if I hadn't quit the job, hadn't met Jesse, and didn't join Billy's business. I guess I would have still been working for Joe. I am so glad that I decided to take a stand for myself and quit my job. And my egotistical ex-boss Joe came a long way as well. From telling me that no city girl would ever want a loser like me, to making me his son-in-law. That's a pretty huge leap.